June 13th, 2023 at 2 p.m. in council chambers. So we need the approval of the agenda, and there are no late items. Mrs. Nelson?
No, there is not.
Thank you very much. Could we have an approval? Councillor Chong, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of some minutes, that the regular open minutes of 2023 be adopted. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Federica, all in favor. Thank you. And we will now go down to water matters. And we have not the Director of Operational Services, but instead we have Scott Neal, who's here. So go ahead, please, Scott. I'm not quite sure what your exact title is. You're not
Superintendent of Public Works.
okay. Superintendent of Public Works. Please go ahead, Mr. Neal.
Okay, well, I'll touch on the stage 1 water restrictions.
Have you got your? Yeah, you have to speak into your microphone.
Recommendations for stage 1 water restrictions. Well, I won't read through the whole report, but we got recommendations and a bit of background of usage. We also have our options and implications. So yeah, we could discuss based on our forecasts of no to little rain the next 2 weeks. Either going to option 1, which is stage 1 water restrictions with increased enforcement. For option 2, we move to stage 2 water restrictions with increased enforcement. So some of the implications, as a community, provide the community with necessary reservoir capacity to provide the fire protection. That's quite critical. Organizational, budget, significant dates, and sustainability. So that's the recommendations to go with stage 1 or stage 2.
Could you explain? Yeah, Mr. Risling, did you want to speak to this?
Okay, I can hold off. You have a question there, and then I wouldn't mind saying a few words. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, then I had a question. Could you explain what we have right now? What we have right now is the normal, which is 3 days a week watering. And could you explain what stage 1 and stage 2 are, the difference between those two, and why we would choose one over the other? Is there must be a reason for us having to move to stage 1?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So just let me pull stage 1 description in our bylaw. Okay, so stage 1 is alternate days of watering. Days of watering. Sprinkling is only permitted at residential, commercial, and non-agricultural properties. So even numbered addresses watering is permitted on even calendar days, and odd number addresses water is only permitted on odd calendar days. So that's the stage 1. There's a bunch of details in the bylaw. A timing of watering properties equipped with an automatic time clock between the hours of midnight to 6 a.m. on the days permitted. There's manual controlled sprinklers. It's got some hours in there. Just reading through this. No water hoses are permitted for the purpose of washing boats, motor vehicles, unless equipped with an automatic shut-off nozzle. So stage 2, just looking at the difference here from stage 1. So even numbered addresses watering is only permitted on Saturdays and Tuesdays, and odd numbered addresses watering is permitted on Sundays and Wednesdays. It's a bit of a difference.
I think the largest difference is so stage 1 goes to 3 days a week, and stage 3, pardon me.
The normal that we have right now is 3 days a week. So that's not, it's 3 days a week. So stage 1 is 2 days.
Yes,
a week, right?
yes.
I think.
Yes.
I'm wondering if, we started off by having odd numbered addresses on like every second day. And then we discovered that some of the months had 30 days, some had 31. So we changed it
Right.
because it wasn't going to come out evenly, especially trying to set your timer. And we had odd number, because I know my house, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday are the days that are the normal, what I'm allowed to water right now. So my thinking is, I'm thinking that when you move to the next stage, it goes down to 2 days a
That's
week.
correct. Yeah.
Right.
So stage one is even calendar days. So
No,
No,
stage one is 2 days a week.
it's
And
alternating
then
days.
stage two is, even numbers would only have watering permitted on Saturdays and odd numbers would only be permitted on Sundays.
yeah.
Okay.
You know what? We started out, Mr. Neal, that way, and then we had to change it once we started because we realized that doing our timers, that it wouldn't fit with what was
Okay.
originally there.
That
So
makes sense.
that's what I think happened. So stage one, then, what we have now is 3 days a week. Stage one would mean we'd be going to 2 days a week.
Correct.
No, and there's 2 different days for odd numbers and 2 other days for even numbers.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a question? Yeah.
Should we amend that bylaw then for clarity?
We are looking at that bylaw to amend it for clarity because normal isn't really it really should be like stage one, then stage two, stage three. So yes, we
Right.
are looking at changing that bylaw. That is something that the Director of Operations has already mentioned.
Awesome.
Changing the bylaw for stage one, a good description.
Well, just the language
everything.
and the clarity.
Yeah.
Because the even and odd doesn't ring true anymore.
No.
It makes sense to do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Make it simple.
Make it simple.
Yeah.
So, so right now, what the reason that we're having to change to 2 days a week has something to do with the water consumption. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Increased demand on the domestic system, in forecast of the, dry weather forecast and, less than average rainfall. So, there's a demand on our system and we're keeping an eye on it. So, it's a 55% increase in demand overall in this time period. So it's all based on forecast. If we get another couple of weeks of dry weather, we want to be on it.
And we definitely are in a drought situation. So I'm going to let Mr. Resling speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think everybody on council knows as well as the public that our water situation isn't that great, both from a quantity and quality perspective. As indicated by Mr. Neal, we've seen increases in quantity usage increased by over 50% over the same period last year. I think council and even members of the public know that even though we've had bylaws and there's criteria for people to follow, we haven't taken a very active approach in enforcing some of these restrictions. And we know, being in the situation last year, we were in a fairly critical state of water usage. We implemented some restrictions, and unfortunately, during that period, we noticed very little improvement in our water quantity situation. And again, I think it's a couple of reasons. Number one is maybe people have programmed their irrigation systems and haven't paid attention to water restrictions, etc. And again, unfortunately, we haven't done a great job of enforcing or educating. Saying that we're going into, I guess, busy tourist season here. We're already in our tourist season, but it's going to get busier here in July and August, and also warmer. We are very, very concerned about hitting that maximum output, and therefore, even though administration has the full authority of implementing water restrictions, it's been delegated to administration. We want to take this opportunity to get some airtime out there, just to tell members of the public that we're going to take a much more active role. Bylaw officers will be out looking at people to ensure they're actually watering on the days that they should be. Again, this is considering our water situation, and we want to get that extra media play and council buy-in on this whole shift. We are going to be taking out some newspaper ads, and really ensuring that we're going to actually hit some sustainable levels in water usage. So it's not really critical at this stage. We still have some capacity on the pumping side, but obviously, as it gets warmer and into our busier season time, and we know last year we were up to 95-96% of our pump capacity. We can't go there again. We're starting these restrictions earlier, going to be doing some education, but we will, this go around, we will be ticketing. And so we're just at that stage where we can't do the whole cry wolf thing. We need to start taking action. And yeah, so we just want to get council support on this and get some media attention on this, I think, pretty important, critical issue for the community as a whole. I will say that depending on usage and where reservoirs sit, you know, there may not be advance notice and moving to a higher stage water restrictions. This, we had a little bit of time, we're not critical, but again, that responsibility has been delegated down to administration. And if it gets worse, we will have to move to a higher stage without going to council to inform you. So I just wanted to make those few additional comments. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
I'd like to move option 2.
So option 2 is 1 day a week.
Yep.
Per,
So stage 2 water restrictions. I just feel like if we're looking at the trends currently, we're already, this time last year, we're 55% higher in terms of water consumption. And as Mr. Risling noted, we might not have as much time to make those changes from stage 1 to stage 2. So in the spirit of being proactive, I think we should, I'd like to move option 2, that we recommend to administration to move to stage 2 water restrictions with increased enforcement.
is there anyone who would like to second that motion? Thank you. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Now we'll open the floor for discussion. Is there anyone else wants to go Councillor King, then Councillor Bennett?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd say the question is the water consumption more because we're doing all this flushing? And part of the rationale, I mean, I know I want to be conscious of water conservation, but with these numbers kind of being so high compared to other years, and I don't think we've had a lot of tourism yet, this water seems to be quite a lot.
It could be from flushing, but it's also most likely from natural weather patterns, like, you know, going from a relatively cool spring to like 30 degrees and people
Yeah.
trying to get on top of their watering. It could be a combination of both. But I think it's more natural occurrences with the weather conditions we've had.
Councillor Appleby? Sorry, Councillor Bennett was first and next, and then you, Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question, when we go to stage 2 and stage 1, what does the town do with because we have a lot of people complaining about, like on the highway, water's running down the highway and way too much water is being sprinkled on our own places. So if we go to stage 1 and 2 and you odd days and even days, how do we as a town restrict our use?
Well, we'd have to prioritize properties that are on domestic lines, right, to protect our domestic wells. I don't think as far as a bylaw enforcement, like the difference between stage 1 and stage 2, like, you know, I think we should be at stage 1 already. So I think jumping to stage 2, this is not a bad idea.
Right.
But also the gradual approach to the community of, you know, gradually go into stage.
I guess my concern is we go out to the public and we say, you have to go to stage 2. And then they go by and we're just watering away.
Like
In
on our
parks,
own
you mean?
property.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm prepared to and ready to adjust our irrigation in our green spaces when the town goes to stage 1. I've been in communication staff with our irrigation crew. And I've cataloged areas that if I had to dial it back, it would just affect like the grass, it wouldn't affect like the trees and the plants. So when we do implement stage 1, I'm also going to dial back the irrigation and the amount we use in our parks. Just set the example, right?
No, that's perfect. Just so the public sees we're.
And
in
if
our
you
shared-
get requests, you know, like the planters on Main Street, they're like a drip feed, so they're very low volume, so we do get those kind of questions like, why are you planting or watering plants while we're at stage 2? Well, it's a very low volume of water being used compared to full-on irrigation.
I'm gonna let Mr. Appleby talk next and then Mr. Isling, okay? Go ahead.
I'm on the same line as Mr. Bennett. And I heard that we're going to adjust this bylaw or make some recommendations to adjust the bylaw. At the same time, I'd like to see the town come up with a set policy. If the community's on stage 1, 2, or 3, then what is the town situation going to be for the green spaces? In other words, if everybody's only allowed to water once a week, you know, on their own grass at home, then it should be stated that we're only watering the parks twice a week if that's what we want, so that we're not blowing water down the road. So I'd like to see that
Totally.
part, in the amendment work. I'd like to see that outlined in some fashion.
I'm gonna let Mr. Risling speak because I think there's some things that he'd like to counter with that. Mr. Risling, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I can certainly appreciate the comments made around the council table, as well as the perception of the public, and ensuring that we're the leaders in this whole transitionary period until we get our water situation under control. One of the issues is, there's a couple things. First of all, a lot of our green space is used extensively by hundreds and hundreds of people, so there's a lot more traffic. So last year we did dial it back during our period of crisis, and what ended up happening is we created, unfortunately, thousands of dollars of damage to our infrastructure, meaning our trees that have died and lots of other vegetation. What we did find out is we have some areas where we can do additional improvements, such as changing the soil that's there. Really, a lot of the vegetation that was planted and the soil conditions that were prepared for that vegetation were probably not optimum. And again, dialing back actually resulted in thousands of dollars of damage. So I can assure you that administration is going to dial back as much as we possibly can. Look at the status of our reservoirs and balance that, almost on a daily basis, to ensure that we're not hitting a critical situation on our infrastructure, trying to be stewards of our water system, but again, trying to reduce the costs associated with potential damage of our vegetation and parks. So again, truly appreciate the comments that are made by a council, and we want to be the stewards. We definitely need to do a lot more on the infrastructure side to, again, changing soils, changing the vegetation to ensure that we're better stewards in the long run. But so we're going to do what we can. I guess if council really strictly wants us to follow what everybody else is doing, that we can do that. But again, going through that last year, we are still paying the price of that decision. And so it's a real balancing act. And in the bylaw, we are actually exempt from the watering bylaw. But again, we try to lead by example.
Thank you. Can I just ask, when the taxes were sent out, my assumption is that there was a sheet that went with it for the town taxes explaining about the watering bylaw? Because I know that I got one, but I don't live in town, but I got one when I come in to pay my water bill. And I do think it was pointed out on there. Okay. So that's one thing. So I'm going to, I wouldn't vote for the motion that's on the floor right now, partly because I think we have the ability to change to 2 days a week for everybody first, with some education, with some enforcement there. And I'm concerned that changing to 1 day a week is going to cause a great deal of angst for everybody, because if it's going to be super hot, I get it. We're not going to have lawns and plants will have to go, although I do think part of the bylaw is that you can do hand watering. I'm pretty sure that that's on there. So with a hose, you can do that. The way I see it, that if we move to 2 days a week, which is stage one, and we will monitor that. And then if it needs to go to stage two, that ability doesn't have to come back to council. That is the ability of our staff and our directors to do that immediately if needed. They don't have to come back and go through this process again. Am I correct, Mr. Risling? You can do
Your
that?
Worship,
without-
you are correct. It is delegated, and I don't think we want to get as critical as we did last year in coming to council. I think now people are aware, I think more aware of our situation as we see the reservoirs deplete or something else. We're gonna we'd be changing the stages based on our situation. We won't be coming to council.
Right, you can do that. So my thinking is that this is going to be a huge change for people who are used to now doing it 3 days a week. Although people still say to me, when are you going to go back to the regular schedule, which meant they could water anytime they want? And I said, well, we're not. The bylaw that's in place says the normal is 3 days a week. And so that's what I think going to 2 days a week will be quite a challenge for some people, and it may be difficult, but to me, that makes more sense. And if it's then needed to go to 1 day a week, then the CAO and our town staff can do that immediately. So, and the other concern is, like, I have quite a concern about the parks as well. We are known as a resort municipality with green spaces that are well kept and well looked after, and people comment when they come here that the hanging baskets and the lawns and the trees are beautiful. If we are going to continue being a resort municipality, we have to take that into consideration when we look at it. Many people, and there's a Make Water Work campaign that's going on with the Okanagan Basin Water Board. Many people are now taking out parts of their lawns, putting in plants that are better, are tolerant of this climate, and not putting in as much lawn. They're putting in, rocks or some other material rather than having to water lawns, because that's one of the concerns in the Okanagan. We use way more water in the Okanagan for irrigation and outdoor, and you have to keep water for our fruit, our vegetables, our fish, our firefighting. Those are really important too. But I think we need to sort of strike a balance here, and so would be my suggestion that I would vote against the motion that's already in place. And I think we need to do a lot of enforcement. We have 4 bylaw officers this year. We only had 2 last year. And we need to do education and explain to people. And that's just my point. Go ahead. No, I think it was Mr. Appleby had it first and then you. Go ahead.
I would just like to reiterate that my statement didn't mean that the town had to go to 1 day a week or 2 days a week in regards to park watering. What I wanted to see was what a standard set by the people looking after the parks, saying, okay, we can shut down 2 days a week if that's what we need and still maintain the green spaces. As the water supply or whatever becomes less or more demanding,
Sure.
then they would have a second stage that they would go to try and alleviate that. I'm not saying it has to be exactly the same as the citizens and their local residences.
Thank you. No, I think I got that from yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess my concern is we're sitting here voting on number 2 days a week. And why are we even doing this if they can just change them when they want? Why do we need to do this
You
here?
mean if our directors
Yeah,
can
if
just
the
change it?
directors feel it needs to be done and they can do it next
That's
week,
not in the
why
bylaw.
can't they do it now?
Could you explain that, Mr. Risling? Why did you need to come with this now? Or was it just to try and give us a an overview of what the future looks like for 2 months.
Yeah, the intent here, your worship, was to give council an opportunity to see what was actually happening to our water usage and to educate the public on, this is getting serious, and we are changing our bylaw practices. We were very, very passive on the, I guess, knocking on doors. We are going to be taking a more aggressive approach in actively having bylaw officers man the streets on off hours to ensure that people are compliant. So this was more to get media attention. As indicated before, this water restriction has been delegated to administration, and we were planning on going there this month, and we decided that no, let's get a little bit additional support from council, and as well as some potential communication to those that are watching this broadcast to know that times are changing and we're changing our practices. So this was really intended to be more of an education, some more airtime on our water situation, and indicating that we're changing our practices to be more aggressive on the enforcement side. So absolutely, if the reservoirs start declining, and if our pump usages keeps going up and our reservoirs are lower, we are going to be moving to a higher stage water restriction. There'll be no choice. Hopefully if people comply with things and are educated, hopefully there's enough downtime. We have no plant issues or no well issues. It won't get to a severe point.
Thank you very much.
I just want to add.
Okay. Councillor
Just
Bennett, Councillor King.
didn't really answer my question. My question is, these are options to show to the public, which is good to do that, but it doesn't matter option 1, 2, or 3. What we recommend today is just a recommendation. You're still going to do what you think is best from an administration point. You're just trying to get our view, but when we vote on today, if we vote option 2, it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm.
Well, then it would be.
I think we would still really consider what council indicated to us. I mean, I think most of our public works people, in talking with Mr. Neal, he's very surprised at how close to the limit we push our pumps. So most municipalities, I think public works people coming in, I don't want to speak for Mr. Neal, but I've already heard him talk. He's very surprised at how hard we push our pumps, and so I think people come from the outside would have put restrictions in a lot earlier, and maybe even stage 2 would be what most people on the outside world would consider normal. It's just we have not really done the enforcement side, and so again, that's the kind of messaging we're trying to get out. So to answer your question on a few folks, if council decided to recommend to go with stage 2, I think administration would follow them. We're at that stage where most municipalities would be going to those higher stages based on our throughput of our pumps. So we would, I think we would take council's recommendation and implement it if you were willing to go to a harder stance. That's where we should be.
Okay, Councillor King.
Yeah, I've got a question. Can you, not to stall this, but I mean, everybody just got a notice in the mail 3 days a week, and now you're trying to implement 2 or 1 day a week. Can this be kind of stalled to the 1st of July till after tax day? Because everybody in town just got a notice 3 days a week. And now you're going to tell them that's no good?
Look, dear, speaking to me, sorry, or Mr. Neal.
You go. No, you go ahead, Mr. Isling.
Well, as you indicated, or as we indicated earlier, looking at our usage within the first part of the month here, we're 50% higher than we were at last year.
And I believe that's a lot to do with the flushing, though.
It is too.
But were we not flushing the same time last year as well?
No,
No.
we didn't have the same
We
problems
didn't have
as
all
we
the
do
brown
now.
water.
So we've done a lot of flushing in the,
Anyhow, I just,
I'm pretty sure, and I don't know whether Mr. Neal knows because he wasn't here last year at that time, and neither was the CAO. But we didn't do nearly as much flushing. That started a little later and we've had to use a lot of water and flush through things. So I tend to think it must have something to do with it.
no, I mean, I support either option here, but I'm just want to know, could we kind of wait to the 1st of July? Because everybody's sitting on that notice, about 3 days a week.
Well,
And maybe next year we'd make it 2 days a week right to start with in that notice, getting proactive.
I think part of the problem is it's just gonna get worse. And we're gonna hit that 95% on the pumps, if not, well, if we continue at the state we're in, we're out of water in, I don't know what projections could be. Mr. Neal might be able.
I think we're behind the gun and we gotta, set this straight and, educate the public and get to stage 2 pretty quickly. But typically June 1st would be a stage 1, and with our conditions, we've had record temperatures as well. And the forecast, nothing wrong with going to stage 1 is like to slowly transition the community to stage 2, and then run to stage 2 within a week.
I think I just want to encourage, like, we, as administration, we were looking to go to stage 2 if this continued within the next week or two. That's how bad of a situation we're in. So if we can't get some cooperation and ensuring people are compliant and see if we can actually get our consumption reduced, we're going to be, if we do decide to go to stage 1 now, if things don't change dramatically, we'll be going to the next stage within a couple of weeks. But we're there, and then worse. So it's not, that's where we're at. So we will never make it, I think, based on our projections, to July 4th without going to an increased stage from normal. I don't think we'll make it.
Being at the stage we're at right now.
Being at where we're at right now as far as normal, which is 3 days a week. If this continues to escalate, we are in the red zone. Again, we were talking administratively of potentially going to stage 2 within a week or two anyways.
Okay. All right. I think we all need to hear this. And obviously, I think we need to make sure that our bylaws are, if it's too confusing, we need to bring that up to date. Mrs. Hilson, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to confirm with council too, so that you are aware that bylaw has already been proactively giving out warnings to homeowners when they are out and about. So they have spoken to individual property owners about watering not on their days of the weeks currently.
So in other words, with them having 3 days a week now, some of them are still not following those guidelines.
That is correct. Yes. So they have been issuing warnings. And then later today, council will see the MTI bylaw before them, and we have increased the fines for not watering, following the watering guidelines. So that'll be later this afternoon as well.
I gotta have one more question.
Councillor Chong was
Okay,
first,
good.
and then
Thank you. So to kind of just summarize, we have had to do more flushing because we have had more manganese and more brown water. The manganese concentration increases because we run our wells 24/7 because the demand is high. Right. So if it seems like all of our problems are because we use just too much water. So if we're able to transition right into stage 2, theoretically, now correct me if I'm wrong, theoretically speaking, our brown water and turbidity issues would reduce as well, which would then necessitate potentially a reduction in flushing, which would give us more capacity in our reservoirs. Correct.
oh, well, that was a good summary.
Yep,
Sure,
right.
if
But
that's the case,
sum it up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Councillor
Yeah,
King.
last
no?
comment here. Again, option 2, if we go to option 2, which is 1 day a week, how many days a week is the city going to water their property? Because we're the biggest culprit of water waste up at Highway 3 and 97. I mean, it's beautiful to see the green when people come into town, but the real question, if we go, ask the public to go to one, how many days is the town gonna go to?
Well, we're prepared to dial it back.
No, but I didn't
Well,
answer my question.
Well, okay,
Like
it's hard
right with the
to,
bylaws, we're exempt from the restrictions, but we could dial it back. I think it'd be wise to do it gradually, just to give our plantings time to.
I'm not talking about, I think we'll keep watering the plants, the trees like they're drippers. I'm just talking the big sprayers up there in the
Yeah,
corner.
that's what I'm talking about too.
Since the amount of water up there is more likely 1,000 houses.
We could dial those back.
really? There's a.
Yeah, there's a lot
Is
of
it in the
water.
night?
They're
I haven't seen
beautiful.
it. but
It's
when they're-
gorgeous up there. I mean, it's
Well, it
green.
is gorgeous, but I hadn't seen the water.
Setting off completely.
We definitely could dial it back, and we have talked about actually installing flow meters at each park or green space, just to see and calculate our own consumption in the
Okay.
parks and green spaces
Yeah.
and boulevards, because really, we don't know, like, we don't know how much water we actually use. That'd be good data to pull. But
So we should put meters up there right away.
yeah, everything has a cost, you know, like, we have a lot, like, we've pulled the data on all our green
Yeah,
spaces. and
for
we have a
sure.
lot of irrigated areas, like, and they're majorly. They're on the domestic feeds, they're not on their, independent wells, or on the domestic lines, which is not
Use
good.
the water we needed.
So yeah, it might be an opportunity to, send out a bulletin to the public and convert landscape to like Sierra scapes in the future, and, remove grass, turf, and plant drought tolerant trees and plants, right? But no, we can definitely dial back, but it's gotta be done.
Okay, well, if the whole town's going to have to, then probably we need to all look at it. So the motion on the floor is it
Two.
option 3?
The motion on the floor is
Option,
that
two.
council supports, or actually, we're
Option
gonna
two.
change it.
Yeah.
It's not supports.
Option 2.
move to stage 2 water restrictions with increased enforcement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody else that needs to speak, or is everybody ready to vote on this? We're okay. All right, all in favor of this motion? Against? Okay, that's passed. Could we, is it necessary? I think we need to adjust the bylaw, because it sounds like it's very confusing. Is that necessary to make a motion to ask for that, or is that something that staff could do and have a look at? Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, because I thought something quite different from what Mr. Neal was reading there. So I think we need to clarify all of that. Is that possible, Mr. Risling?
Your worship, I know it was in our business plan or in our operations plan to actually look at that bylaw and change it. I think if we're planning on doing a lot more information, advertising, that type of thing, and just maybe focusing more on what's in place right now. This is what you can do. As far as changing that bylaw or that policy, that'll take 6 weeks anyways, by the time we change it, and then by the time we get approved. And so we agree, the wording needs to be changed. I just don't know if it's gonna help us in time for this, our upcoming crunch time.
No,
So
I
we're
don't-
doing
I wasn't suggesting that. I just think that should be something that needs to be done. And if it's not done today, absolutely, in a couple of months or whenever, but we need to update that. Counselor.
So I have a question then. We support this 1 day a week. How do you really enforce that if we got a bylaw that says they can do something different?
Well, no, the bylaw is pretty specific. Moving to stage 2 tells us exactly how often you can use the water, et cetera. So it's very clear.
Okay,
It's just, I think the confusion is in most places what our stage 1 is similar to somebody else's stage 2. It's just the terminology, like normal, most people would think, well, I can turn the tap on at any given time. And our normal is you can only do it, water your lawns 3 days a week. So it's just, I think there's just some confusion out there. And so that's what we'd like to change. But no, it's very clear if you actually read the bylaw, what you can and can't do in each of the stages. But I completely understand how people would think normal. I can turn my tap on any time, but our normal is only 3 days a week.
Right.
Thank you.
So
Right. Okay. So, we're finished with that one. Mr. Neil, you're on again.
This
So
one's
this
a-
is the water main right of way. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, this is a little less complex. Yeah, so recommendations to gain right of way over a water main. So recommendations to take right of way for the long term as by the town and for the province. This right of way is the 2 new parallel water mains that have been installed between Jarrow Park and the Holiday Inn that go through the bridge. So the province is now requesting final review of the tenure over Crown land, and this requires a council resolution to complete the process. So options, this is required by the province, and implications and others consulted. Yeah, it's kind of cut and dry. We would want to take right away over this water main for the long term.
Sure.
As part of the province's requirements.
And then that would legally give us the right of way to, to deal with it. Okay. So, is there someone who would like to, move the recommendation, please?
Yeah.
Counselor King, you're moving the recommended recommendation. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Counselor Bennett. Yes, go ahead. You had a
Question. Is the federal government involved in this in any way?
The provincial government is.
I
Federal
see.
government, I don't think they're required to be in the loop on this one.
Yeah.
So just the province.
That's what it looks like. Go ahead.
It's an interesting question, Jim, because it's an international waterway.
That's my question. Yeah.
Right now, it's only the province needs to be satisfied, but
Mhm. Well, the province then would have to deal, Counselor Marrera.
I have water rights to the lake and I pay the province.
Okay. So it is the province that looks after. Okay. But you're right, it is international waterways.
It's
So
important
fisheries
water,
have
right?
something to say with
The
it. Not
DFO would,
federal.
That
Yeah.
pays.
federal, yeah.
Okay. So the recommended motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Neal. We won't put you on the spot anymore.
You.
Until next time.
Until next time, that's right. Okay, next is the correspondence. And you will see that you have a letter of the Okanagan Basin Water Board highlights. Couple of things. The potential impact, economic impact of zebra and quagga mussels in BC. I mean, I know you hear me rant on about this a lot, but quite frankly, they came out with this report. If our lake is infested with this, it could be 64 to 129 million annually just to look after hydro facilities, irrigation infrastructure, municipal water treatment, all of that. So to that end, the Okanagan Basin Water Board is sending a letter to the province concerning ongoing problems that we see. And we have requested a meeting with Premier Eby at UBCM. So that will be coming up. As you heard with water problems, the regional drought meetings, Okanagan Basin Water Board's involved with that. Regional Drought Response Team, they're meeting weekly now because of these concerns. There was a very high snowpack when the heat came at the beginning of May. That snowpack melted quickly and it's now gone. So it didn't sort of do it slowly and fill up the reservoirs where like we wanted it to. So that will be substantial rains are needed to prevent drought this summer. That's basically what it says. So we're watching for that. Climate Change Indicators Project. There is an intern that's been hired who is looking at the past the projections and the past, over the last several years, what are the trends, and she will come up with something by the end of the summer. I will certainly let you know. And of course, Make Water Work campaign has started, and you can take a pledge to make water work. There's lots of things on there. And the last time I looked, now it was about a week ago, makewaterwork.ca, Asuyas was leading the charge. And I'm hoping that everybody will sign up, because we get some kind of a prize at the end. And we had 50% of the votes. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to continue, because it goes for a while, but it would be nice to have that. And really excited, we're getting a new milfoil harvester. And it's the milfoil harvester program has been going for over 40 years. They come down to Asuyas Lake, the north end, they harvest it. Well, there's two things. They rototill it in the winter, which means they drag out the roots when the lake is a little lower, and they harvest it or give it a haircut in the summer because of boats and people using the water. Doesn't mean that it's going to grow back quickly. But what happens is you have to take the harvester out of the lake at the north end, put it on a truck, take it down, put it in at the south end, because it can't go under the bridge. But anyway, the new harvester, which is being built in Germany, is just a dandy. And we had a really good presentation the other day at our meeting of all the things it can do. It can store a lot more of the milfoil. It can climb up the beach higher. And of course, milfoil can be offloaded and used for fertilizer or taken to the landfill, either one. But the wheelhouse is able to be lowered a little bit, and it's possible it could get under the bridge in Asuyas. And so somebody said, well, maybe, because we're not getting it till June 2024, maybe when the new harvester is here, they might like to put it in the Cherry Fiesta Parade. And I said, yes, they would. So it's kind of exciting. Just know that we really keep up to date on water issues in the Okanagan, not domestic necessarily, but how the water is treated, the quality, the quantity, and it's amazing. It's an amazing group, though, lucky to belong to it. Okay, so could we please have a motion to receive the OBWB report? Thank you, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And next we have the quarterly council strategic priorities chart, and that would be Mr. Risling's going to speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know we've talked about this for the last couple of council meetings and maybe the whole meetings. There was just a couple minor changes to it from our last meeting, just to update a couple of the dates. Basically, we're asking that they be approved, both the strategic priorities chart and the infrastructure strategy table, and as well because we're supposed to come quarterly, but we're so close to July, like being June 13th. We're also recommending that both charts do not come to council in July, but that's a council decision. I mean, we're only a month away, but seeing that you still can change it today, just thinking maybe it doesn't need to come forward again in July. That's up to you folks.
Thank you. So what you're recommending is that council approve the strategic priorities chart dated today and approve the infrastructure strategy. And I believe we need 3 different motions, do we? Okay, so could we have somebody make a motion based on one of these, please? Councillor Chong?
I'll move option 1.
Thank you. The priorities chart be approved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Thank you. And it was also recommended option 2. Is there someone who would like to make that? Thank you, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Poderica, all in favor? Thank you. And the CAO has asked that the scheduled July review for both strategies be canceled for now and put on later in the fall. Councillor Potterica, Councillor King, all in favor? Thank you. Could I just go back into the report, Mr. Risling, and I see that we were talking about the municipal restructuring feasibility project, which we have added to the list, but it's at the bottom. And so you are suggesting that this would not be worked on until we have already gone through some of the other higher priorities on the chart. And I'm kind of concerned about the next paragraph where there have been several requests from property owners outside town boundaries. So I think what we kind of agreed with that was that we would not move forward on any of those until we had a better look at how this would affect our infrastructure, and that boundary expansion should sort of be handled properly and carefully before we move forward on any of these. So to that end, we have had some people who have requested that they be hooked up with sewer and so on. And I'm wondering if it's possible that we could either write them a letter, and I'm thinking about Mr. and Mrs. Scott, who came at the last meeting and requested that. And based on what we have looked at now, that would not be something that we would recommend at this point. We would based on what you've written in here and what we've agreed to. Is that possible to have a letter sent to the Scotts and I'm not sure if there are any other people who have asked who've given a similar ask and may not have come to council? Could they then be sent a letter concerning this, Mr. Risling, or how do you see this working?
Absolutely, Your Worship. I think what this report and what council ultimately approved is indicating to the public that at some point council realizes that there may be boundary expansion requirements, but so it's on your list, but it's not something that we're dealing with immediately. And until such time that we can do that broader study, or until such time that council believes it's kind of in our top 5, whenever that may be, right? Council has the opportunity to take a look at those top 5 every quarter and change them. But until such time that it goes to those top 5, administration is not going to be working on it. And once it hits the top 5, it is still going to probably take 3 to 5 years to get through all the consultation and the studies to ultimately determine whether the boundaries will be expanding. And then once that occurs, it is multiple years, probably 5, 10, 15 years down the road that they will actually get servicing. So I think, Your Worship, just having that out there for people to understand is important. And absolutely, administration will provide people that have requested access to our sewer water, will relay that information and send a letter to them. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else? No, we're good. So we will let our administration deal with that part. All right, next we have the general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. And as of June 13th, general cash requirements are in the amount of $745,280.30. Sun Bowl cash requirements of $169,485.18. And net payroll accounts of $129,146.09. And what we need is a motion, please, to accept general cash requirements, Sun Bowl, and net payroll accounts for information purposes. We have that. Councillor Chong, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. And next is the summary of building permits. And I see that we have 1,616,700 for the month of May. So people are busy out when the nice weather, fixing things up. And to date is 5,700,000 versus 6,900,000 last year. So, are there any questions or concerns about that? So could we please have a motion that the building permit be received for information? Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thank you. And so next is the utilities facilities bylaw, and it is printed there on page 30. And what we're looking for today is the first, second, and third reading was on the 23rd of May, and we're looking for adoption of this of the utilities facilities bylaw. Is there someone who would like to make a motion to that? Thank you, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. And the good neighbor bylaw. And that is on the next page. And this has just been approved by the province. It was first, second, and third reading were done in February. And then the approval by the Ministry of Transportation has just happened. And so we're looking for the adoption of this bylaw. Could we have a motion, please, to adopt this bylaw? Councillor Poderica, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. And the next bylaw is the municipal ticket information bylaw. And so we are looking for the consideration of adoption on this particular bylaw. Yes.
For this particular bylaw, I have to recuse myself
All right.
for a potential conflict of interest. I may be working with a company that could financially benefit from any changes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll call you back when this has been dealt with. Thank you. Councillor Chong. So the municipal ticket information was read a first, second, and third time on May the 23rd, 2023. And today we are looking for adoption of this bylaw. Thank you. Councillor Poderica, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. Okay, so you will bring Councillor Chong back and thank you. And the last thing on here in this part anyway is the council report for Councillor Bennett, who had 2 meetings that he attended. And he is looking for we're looking for a motion for the expenses for Councillor Bennett in the amount of $100 be approved. Councillor Poderica, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much. And we will now go back to the report of the administrative officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we're hitting that busy time of the season, so I've got a few things to report here. Community Services organized a training session with Community Recreation Initiative Society to use the trail rider. And they're planning to have the trail rider and the Mobi chair available for the public to use. So just a fantastic opportunity, and really proud of the folks there to get some of that equipment in to assist with some of those folks that have mobility issues. So strongly encourage people that have mobility issues to take a look at that equipment. It's very expensive, and I'm hoping people utilize it. Registration for swimming lessons is slow, so if you have people in your family that want to participate in swimming lessons, you still got time to get in there. The Cactus Kids Day Camp registration starts June 13th. It's usually a very, very popular session, so get your registrations in soon. And obviously, Community Services has been involved in a few things like the community barbecue, and hats off to them, and hats off to all the departments for working with our fantastic nonprofit organizations that do a lot of other events in the community, most recently being the Cactus Jalopies, which I think was a significant success and which involved a lot of work on the administration side, which they were happy to do. So I think it was a fantastic event. Other things going on, Sunbowl Arena, people are going to notice some changes there. Did some paint and got some new rubber flooring in the penalty boxes. So that time of the year when a lot of this maintenance occurs, and the important piece is that the chiller is on schedule, and it's still everything's going well there. So I shouldn't have jinxed it all, but everything seems to be going well in that whole thing right now. Bylaw enforcement officers still keeping busy, dealing with a lot of increasing their park patrols and doing some unsightly premises issues and traffic infractions and some water violations. They're going to get a lot busier on that front in the following weeks. Property taxes are due at the end of the month, July 4th. So we want to make sure that people get their property taxes paid. Don't want to be charging them a 10% penalty on anything that's outstanding after that date. The fire department did a hall tour with the Girl Guides, and they also received some of their new turnout gear on the capital purchasing side. So that's great. A lot of times they're waiting for equipment for a year or 2 years, but that stuff has arrived, and that's great. Keep our firefighters safe. Within planning and development, another workshop occurred on Saturday with regards to short-term rentals. I always like to mention the new businesses in town: Osprey 11 Bed and Breakfast, Jamie Fid's Massage Therapy, Nighthawk Electric, Sarah Consulting and ICBL, Maxine Whitehead Design, Heidenreich's Landscaping, Hawkeye Plumbing and Heating, and Nighthawk Electric ICBL. A couple changes in ownerships of JoJo's Cafe and Strike the Pose. On the operational services side, they notice a lot of fantastic looking parks and flowers, etc., planted throughout the community. On the positive side, lagoons have the odor has subsided a bit, and so that's positive news. And again, we're not out of the woods on that, but certainly the odors have subsided for now, so we're thankful for that. We also have and because we've been talking about water quite a bit, we're hoping that the water master plan will be coming forward next council meeting or next committee of the whole. I think it's a pretty important document. It's going to lay out some of the asset management requirements. It's not a detailed document, but it definitely provides a framework from which we should hopefully follow. And the wastewater master plan will follow soon after that. Purchase order was issued for the repairing area down at the old curling rink site. So that's nearing completion. And more water, production well exploration, the drilling for the test holes is completed. And so hopefully within the next few weeks here, we'll get some of the flow testing and the quality testing out of the way, and I'll report that back to council as to where we're sitting with that. But again, positive news, at least on first blush, that there was water in some of the holes, and that's a very good thing. And we also ordered a new utility van. We got lucky. It's very difficult for us to acquire vehicles during this time, but there was a van. Somebody didn't order it, but didn't purchase it, and so we capitalized on that opportunity, and that was purchased and likely delivered within the next 6 weeks. And so that falls within our budget because we had another utility vehicle that we said no to because the price came in too high. So we're shifting around a little bit as far as what we can make work considering these times. That concludes my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Risling. Could we have a motion, please, to accept the CAO report?
A question?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you. I noticed on the old museum sites that there's some sand laid down. Do you have an update on that? So
yeah, Your Worship, through Your Worship, I know administration, we purchase sand usually once a year. I put some on the beach. I think we laid some a week or two ago. And my understanding is that there was a donation of some additional sand, and so it wasn't completely, I guess, so it's a positive thing, and so we're probably going to be proceeding with leveling out that sand. It's and so yeah, I think it's a good thing from a community perspective. Wasn't completely in our work plan, but when some things like this occur, I think council would appreciate us working with those organizations to make the best use of these donated resources.
So has it just been spread around out there, or is it being used for something specific? with them?
My understanding was it was as Mr.
Yeah.
Risling has said, it was a donation for temporary usage so that we could have potentially more courts for the Soyuz beach volleyball. The hopes is that it can be used temporarily as additional community area until the Jarrow Park charrette can occur, and
Sure.
then we can have more public input.
Thank you. No, I hadn't seen that part. So yeah, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so could we have a motion to accept the CAO report? Councillor Chong, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you very much. And we have council reports. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May 26th, I attended the Town Appreciation Night, helped out there. And on May 27th, I helped out at the Half Court Marathon in Oliver. And the reason I want to bring it up is when I left here in the morning, that marathon had filled up just about all our motels because people were coming out of the motels. But if you're coming through town and you weren't from here, you think everybody's crazy because all these people were dressed in all kinds of goofy outfits,
right.
walking them down the
That's right.
street. So that was a great event. Congratulations to them. Then I attended the Cactus Shoppy. I volunteered there and helped out at the beer gardens and kept people from the beer cans away from the cars, and had a chance to thank JF at the time. And basically the next morning I went back and put some other stuff away, and there's 3 town trucks down there. All the people working, the town people cleaning everything up, which is really nice. So congratulations to Cactus Shoppy on a great job. And then I went to the short-term rentals with Miss McKay on Saturday and kind of sat in there, and I'll let her report on that, and the mayor. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Same thing. We were at the community barbecue May 26th. Took over from Chef Councillor King over there on the barbecue duty. It was great turnout. Always great to see community out. May 29th, we had a breakfast with the Lieutenant Governor.
Lieutenant.
I always get the Lieutenant Governor. And we had some really great conversation. And then Cactus Jalopies, huge success. Largest event I've witnessed ever since I've been here. So it's always great to see volunteers coming out and really coming together to help create such a great event. And then we had our first meeting with the Community Services Advisory Committee on June 6th. So looking forward to working with that group of people to see how we can assist.
Good. Oh, great. Thank you. Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Bishop. Sorry. I also, 29th did attend, do you like to hear? I don't, yeah, the 29th I did attend breakfast with Lieutenant Governor Jan Austin. Thanks to the Sutherland Chamber of Commerce for hosting that event. I unfortunately did miss Cactus Jalopies, but did hear it was a great success and it was great to do. Thanks to the volunteers and the organizers as well as the town staff that assisted in making that such a great event. And then on the, everyone who was back on the 7th, attended a Destination Citizens meeting where we met with Richard Porges, the presidency of Open Destination BC. So we were fortunate to have him and one of his staff members in the valley, staying in Osuis for a couple days. So a good opportunity to work with Destination BC as the Crown Court responsible for tourism in British Columbia. So that's my report.
Good, thank you. Counselor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kind of interested on May 24th, along with the mayor attended the open house at the lawn bowling. It was interesting to see there was actually teams as far away as Kamloops and Salmon Arm. It was fantastic. I didn't really bowl, but it was interesting to watch. Again, on the 26th, the Spirit of Osoyoos Community Barbecue in Gyro Park, where we give away 450 hot dogs. I really want to thank Mayor and some of the council that were there, and especially all the volunteers to help out to make that such a great success. It was a great event. Also attended the Lieutenant Governor's morning breakfast that the chamber had put on. And on June 1st, was a representative for this town at the RDOS, which the topic was kind of short-term rentals. So it really talked about the same thing we've been talking about. And the main thing is enforcement, where I know we've got a few bylawers, and I'm sure they got quite a few more, but they're still dealing with the same type of issues. After that, I did attend Jalopies on the Friday night. It was a little slow. They were just bringing in the cars, but you could see it was starting to develop. And then the 4th, attended the drag racing, where they said they actually had one of the biggest crowds, and some of those big fancy cars you see at Cactus Jalopies were actually up there racing, which was pretty interesting to see. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So sounds like everybody's been busy, and actually we have, but it's been 3 weeks since we've had last council. So that makes it a little. So I've been at several of those things. The lawn bowling launch, it was quite interesting to watch them doing that. Councillor King and I did not play because these guys were experts. I went to the Indigenous grad ceremony, which was held at OSS on May 25th. And it was very interesting. There were, I think, 25 graduates from SOSS in Oliver, OSS, Osoyoos, and SESS from Karamias. And they had a ceremony, and it was very nicely done. And I hadn't been to one before, but I was invited because it was in Osoyoos. And then, of course, we all town staff and council worked at the barbecue, where we had 450 hot dogs that we cooked. And the town did welcome the Lieutenant Governor, Janet Austin, down at Watermark on the weekend. And she was here in the Okanagan as because she was opening the Indigenous Golf Tournament, which was at Incaneep Canyon Golf Course. I always think of it as Cherry Grove because that's what it used to be called. But anyway, that was very nice. It was a nice weekend. And Okanagan Basin Water Board had a meeting. It was supposed to be in Penticton, but at 6:30 in the morning, we had to change it to Zoom because of the slide at just north of Penticton. And we have people that come from all the way up at Vernon. So instead, we held it online. I went to the RDOS. Well, no, it wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't RDOS. It was in Penticton, though. It was the BC Human Rights Commissioner has put out a report called From Hate to Hope, and I have a copy of it. It was quite interesting how much hate mail, hate things on Zoom, hate on social media sites that happened during the pandemic. And so what were the reasons for that? People were kind of alone. They were scared. They didn't know what was happening and tend to lash out. But it was quite interesting to go to this. And I do have the report if anybody wanted to read it. But they were trying to see how they could make things better or improve things. And then I was on the International Lake Osoyoos Board of Control Zoom yesterday, where we were talking about the lake levels, which is a little lower than it normally is at this time of year. And also, as you recall, last year, the monument that marked the water levels was damaged, and it's now being fixed, and it will be put back in the water. Unfortunately, it happened in Osoyoos right when the water farm was being put on. But the IJC, International Joint Commission, is paying for it. So that's very nice. Certainly we've had a lot of talk, in the last 10 days about Cactus Jalopies, and some good and some bad, but definitely it was an enormous event. Council was there, lots of town people were there. It was the volunteers that put on all events in this town. Cactus Jalopies, Cherry Fiesta, Music in the Park, All Hallows. I mean, we are so lucky to have volunteers in our town that will do that. And the help that they get, and so many people have thanked the town and our town staff for helping to coordinate the event, because it takes a lot of coordination with the volunteers and with the special events that have to be filled in and followed, and our public works who spent an inordinate amount of time helping with the event. And we just want to thank everybody involved. We'd never get any of these special events if it wasn't for the volunteers. But the fact that we have so many people willing to help, and such great coordination with our town staff, public works, the Sonora Center staff, the town of Osoyoos staff dealt with things all day long too. So we just want to say thank you to everybody. And it was, I mean, I walked around and saw all the cars, but I'll tell you that it always scares me when I watch the motorcycle jumpers, because, and I've seen them many times over the years, but as a parent, I just have my heart in my throat. I don't know how they can do that. However, they are very good athletes and they put on an amazing show. So thanks to everybody. And we're certainly looking forward to the next amazing show, which is on Cherry Fiesta, which is on July the 1st. And it's on a Saturday. And so it makes a long weekend, not only in Canada, but in the States. So as an organizer of this event for many, many years, when it was on the weekend, well, especially when you've got both holidays, it increases the number of people that will come here. So we hope people will come and have fun and enjoy the event, because it's the 73rd annual. And also the night before that, Music in the Park starts, and that's 12 Fridays of all kinds of entertainment and lots of other things that are on too. So we have a great town. We enjoy it all, and it's going to be a busy season coming up. So I just want to now move into the in-camera section, and pursuant to section 91 of the community charter, a part of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to or is one or more of the following. Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Section 91G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. And 91J, information that is prohibited, or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. So could I have someone like to move that motion, please? Thank you. Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chong, all in favor.